A 75 on a test isn't bad. In fact, it's good enough. It gets you a C, it gets you a degree. But 75% of the people who watch your videos not subscribing to your page, that's not good enough. No, because if you like one of my videos, there's a solid chance you'll like all of my videos. So if you're one of that 75%, go ahead and subscribe to the page, please and thank you. Who is Lord Jashin? I think it's absolutely insane I even have to make this video, because we should know who the guy who grants immortality is. That should be common knowledge. There's a couple of theories about who Lord Jashin actually is. None of them are confirmed in any sense. And before we get into those, however, we should probably talk about Jashinism as a whole and clear up some misconceptions about it. Before we do any of that though, make sure you drop a like on this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. We're posting 3 times a week out here, and it's all anime all the time, baby. Let's get into Jashinism. So let's go over what we know for sure about Jashinism. One, we've only ever seen 2 confirmed Jashinists, Hidan and Ryuki. Hidan being a member of the Akatsuki shown in Naruto Shippuden, and Ryuki being a independent Jashinist investigated by Might Guy Kakashi and Asuma's child Mirai in Boruto. Everything we know about Jashinism has essentially been told to us through light novels, especially Akatsuki Hidan. In Akatsuki Hidan, essentially a light novel about each member of the Akatsuki, their motivations for joining the Akatsuki, and their backstory prior to it, we find out from Hidan that essentially the core tenements of Jashinism are essentially all about death and destruction, specifically giving death to your neighbors. Hidan frames this giving death to your neighbor as a gift because it clears them from the fear of death. But neighbor doesn't mean the person who lives next to you. It essentially means anyone you love or get close to. This is why Hidan never tries to kill Kakuzu, because he hates Kakuzu. In another light novel, Konoha Hidan, Konoha goes to investigate Jashinism, but fails to find another Jashinist outside of Hidan. Which brings us to our first theory, that Jashinism was created by Hidan. Hidan, being born with an abnormality of immortality, essentially created a religion in his head that was unique to him. This would essentially make Hidan Lord Jashin. And it's not the craziest thing we've ever heard, because like I said in Konoha Hidan, we were unable to find any other Jashinists, even when the biggest of the hidden villages put a ton of resources into finding them. And now I know what you're saying. You're saying,
well, what about Ryuki? Ryuki's a Jashinist.
But Ryuki was inspired by Hidan. In this sense, Hidan becomes Muhammad, becomes Jesus, becomes the prophet of Lord Jashin, and acts as the grower of this religion that he created to service the god Lord Jashin that he created. Obviously, this theory isn't nearly as much fun as the second one, which is that Lord Jashin is actually the god of the Otsutsukis. And you could say that this story is a bit corroborated by the existence of Ryuki, who was trying to achieve the immortality that Hidan had achieved by sacrificing many people, specifically women, to Lord Jashin. Ryuki implied that by murdering and destroying so many things, Hidan was able to receive his blessing from Lord Jashin, and he was simply following his path. By the way, this feels like a good place to interject that canonically Hidan is dead. Many people ask me, do you think Hidan's still alive in that pit? He's not. It's canonical knowledge that the only way that a Jashinism who has received the blessing of Lord Jashin can die is lack of nourishment or nutrition. And guess what? He's not eating in that hole. And just like the first theory, this theory also makes sense, because who could grant immortality other than the god of Otsutsukis? Even Otsutsukis themselves aren't immortal. We've seen Momoshiki die. So in order for someone to be able to grant immortality to another person, that means they would have to be even stronger than the strongest Otsutsuki we've seen, which is Ishiki, who is very much mortal. This point is further corroborated by the fact that when we first get a look at the outside of the Kara hideout, we see markings for the pairs of each Otsutsuki that is descended down to earth. One being for Momoshiki and Kinshiki, the other being for Ishiki and Kaguya, the third is destroyed. So we don't know who that pairing of Otsutsukis was, but we know one Otsutsuki is close to Earth, and that's Toneri, who's living on the moon. So who did Toneri come with? Probably Lord Jashin. To even take it one step further than that, look at what happens to Momoshiki when he absorbs Kinshiki. He gets black marks on his faces and he ascends to this godlike level. Looks a bit like what happens to Hidan when he enters his immortality mode, doesn't it? Then think of the weapon that Hidan uses to stab himself. The sharp, pointy black stick looks a bit like a true seeker orb that's been made into a sharp stick, right? It's the same color. It looks like the ones that Ishiki uses to shoot at Naruto. Not implying that Ishiki has true seeker orbs, he doesn't, but it looks like a Keke Toda. As to why Lord Jashin didn't defeat the earth and grow a spirit tree and eat the fruit, we don't know. We can only hypothesize, essentially. Maybe Toneri betrayed him, maybe Hagoromo and Hamaru was still around and they were able to fight him off. All we know is the only people capable of granting immortality would have to be the god of the Otsutsukis. So if I've convinced you that it was either Hidan's mentality or the god of the Otsutsukis descending down to earth in order to rain chaos and possibly make earth an easier place to turn into a spirit tree and then eat the fruit of, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell, because if you liked this video, then boy, oh boy, do I got news for you. There's more to come. Whether imagined or not, I think we can all agree, Lord Jashin's a scary guy.